King Nation. This is Anthony Lauer, Art and Design teacher at Rufus King High School, and you're listening to episode 11 of the King's Cast, a podcast introducing our listeners to the men and women working each day to teach the next generation of Rufus King Generals. Today we're talking with Doreen Badillo, former King Spanish teacher, about her return to Rufus King as our new building principal. In our conversation, we will also discuss how the International Baccalaureate Program aims to develop King students into inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring individuals who strive to create a better and more peaceful world. Thanks for taking a few minutes to listen today. Good afternoon, Miss Badillo. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And about you?
I am doing well. Thank you for coming on to the Rufus King King's Cast podcast. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm excited to get your voice out to our listeners and out to our family community and future potential students and colleagues if they listen and are looking to come work for us.
Okay.
Today I just have a couple of questions for you. We can have a nice casual conversation. But normally I introduce our guests. So you are Doreen Badillo. You are a principal. You are a former Spanish teacher, a former assistant principal at World Languages.
Milwaukee School of Languages,
Milwaukee School of Languages, thank you for the correction. And now you are here as our building
And
principal.
don't forget, I was also a parent.
And the parent of an MPS student and a Rufus King grad.
Both of them.
Both boys, yeah.
Both,
right?
Boy and girl.
Boy and girl, my
Yep,
apologies.
that's
I'm
okay.
going with the two boys.
Yes.
Conversations always get jumbled in my brain. All right, well, let's start off our interview. What brought you into a career in education?
To be honest, I was not the greatest student myself. I struggled. It was horrifying. I hated school. When I got out of education, I thought to myself, thank God I'm done with that.
School, just to
Yeah,
clarify.
no, just school.
Not education
Not
as a career,
education
as you
career.
got out of school as a teenager.
Correct. Then I really honestly didn't know what I wanted to do. Went to liberal arts college. Got a major in Spanish. I was walking down the hallway with my friend at Carol at the education building. And there was this poster, which is actually the quote that I would probably end with and which I'll start with, that said, "Shape a mind, change a future, be a teacher." And I thought, I've always wanted to help people. I think that's it. That's a sign. I'm going to go for it. I know that's weird, right?
Literally and
it's a sign,
yeah.
literally. And so it was my junior year. I went into the educator building again, talked to an advisor, and the rest is history.
Excellent. Well, that leads us right into being here at King. And you can answer this with your time here as a teacher as well as your time now as principal. But what is one aspect of the International Baccalaureate that you connect with and that you want to bring into your leadership strategy here at King?
So I believe, and I've experienced myself, IB turns us into transformational teachers. And what I mean by that is best practices is one thing. What I love is that IB looks at us as strengths. So when we look at students, instead of saying, oh, you lack this, IB says, you're really strong at this, and here's the way you can grow. So it's that growth mindset. And I love that because that's where I want to live. I never want to be stagnant. I want to make sure that as an IB learner, I'm always paying attention to that growth mindset. And that's how I want to lead as a principal, saying not only can I build staff, but I can build that capacity and those skills for our students. So they see it more than just, I'm going to memorize this material and leave it alone, but how do I grow from this? How do I learn from this? And how do I use it in my future?
No, those are absolutely great qualities that I think a lot of the staff here at King have taught me over the last 10 years of my career at King. And have made me a better educator. How can I bring that back in the classroom for the students to have those experiences?
Exactly.
How can the learner profile guide them to show them their strengths and then show them these related areas that will help them grow so that they have 4 or 5 learner profile traits over just 1 or 2 when they walk in the door. And then, of course, that will help our content, me as a art teacher, you as a former language teacher, but then in any of the content areas, because the learner profile is how we look at students across the board in all content areas.
And that's also the 21st century skills, which includes not just communication, but doing, listening, understanding, analyzing all of it.
Oh, and it pushes those soft skills
Yes.
that every employer has been talking about since they started the millennial era.
Yes, oh gosh.
The class of 2000, as I date myself. But I was having that conversation with my NYP design students this week that I am technically a millennial, as I graduated in 2000, and that makes me the first graduating class. That was
Correct.
the generation that was labeled based on graduation, not as birthday. And what did that mean? Well, it meant that, employers have been saying soft skills, soft skills, soft skills. How do we make our next generation of students or employees have those skills of being a well-rounded, well-communicative,
Well-versed.
self-motivated, and well-versed student? So in your classes, when you taught here at King for 17 years, correct?
Yes.
And that's when I first met you, because
Yes.
you were still a Spanish teacher here when I started. Did you have a favorite unit, topic, or a project that you taught?
I had several favorite that were student-based. Always give children voice and choice. I would say I did one on advertisement. So I sneakily, the kids learned, but I did it on the sly, right? They didn't think we were learning, we were debating. So what I did was, the first assignment we did was they had to watch TV for an hour, but just the commercials, because I wanted them to have 30 minutes based on commercials. And
well before streaming and
correct. Wait, okay, I'm dating myself.
Captive audience for the commercials.
Correct.
And capitalism.
And the reason why I wanted the commercials is because we were focused on beauty, which was part of that, and how that sometimes could lead to, unfortunately, mental health issues, right? So I said, any commercial that you see, let's mark it down, and what do you see? Not just the beauty, obvious commercials. And so when they came back, we had this whole debate. Well, what about this commercial? And they'd bring up all these commercials. And there was one commercial in particular, which I wonder if you remember. It's where it's hamsters, and they get into this green car, and they're kind of chubby.
Yeah,
do you remember that one?
I think it was the
It was a
Toyota
car
Scion.
one. Yes.
Like it could be. There's that era, though, of
Right.
flashy little cars.
And they get in.
Computer-generated characters.
Right, and this car transforms them into, they get out, they're now skinny, and they've got bow ties and suits.
Yeah, and they're about to roll to the club.
Right.
Yeah.
And I said to the students, when you watched that commercial, what did you think? And so we debated in Spanish, back and forth. I don't see anything. I just see, a car.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And it was interesting how we had the spectrum of students thinking about, based on their experiences in life. That's talking about, I'm overweight and I need to be cool and I need to have this car to be cool.
I need this thing, yeah.
Right. Versus others who are like, it's just a car. Versus others who are like, oh, you have to look a certain way to. And so that led into our unit. But breaking it down, having them see it from their own vantage point, their own
and
experiences.
hearing from each other.
Yes.
Right? That's the biggest thing I push with the students right now, because our current freshman and sophomore lost a large chunk of their middle school
Yes, they
experience.
sure did.
And as the prefrontal cortex develops and they start realizing who other people are and that they're part of this hive, and what other people go through, they lost that.
They did.
And this kind of experience helps students, or this kind of project helps them see that other people do have different points of view.
And why?
And why? Where did that come from? What established their experiences to build their truths that
Correct.
help them interpret or view it from this vantage point?
Yeah, and
Which is all TOK.
It really is. It really is. And approaches to learning, right? How do we approach this and why does it happen? And really being self-reflective. So we talked about, they were even surprised on, I didn't realize that's how I felt. And so as we moved forward and we talked about mental health and we talked about the issues that we have in society and how that forms that for you right there in front of you. And TV is guiding a lot of that.
Yep, pop culture, mass
Yeah,
media.
exactly. And they were kind of like, wow, I now I understand where you were coming with this. And and when we get into the IB units, it was about a 4-week unit. So it was really invigorating for me to see them debate, but not only that, but to really understand how that connects to a lot of things.
And again, it wasn't now just vocabulary and pronunciation, but you have that opportunity to bring in a piece of you now into what you're trying, and it gives them a little bit more passion and drive to want to learn the language, to want to be able to hear, understand, and then
move forward,
retort in the conversation as it goes.
And we also talked about how this looks like in Latin America, because then I took a few of Latin American commercials and I said, what do you see is different? Why do you think that happens? Is that a cultural difference? And so we debated on those components. I didn't do anything. I just said, what about
Showed
this?
it,
And I was
yeah.
like, you tell me that. You know,
You
they
give them something to inquire on.
correct. They debated each other, and I said, but show me how. How do we know that?
Yeah, back
Which-
it up.
The analysis of those, of course, articles that we had.
Especially
I
in
miss
this day
teaching.
and age, yeah, especially in this day and age where it's not commercials.
Correct.
Although some streaming services still have them, it's pretty much just social media that
Yes.
affects the kids in that way,
TikTok
as commercials used to. Yeah. Oh, it's one of the only banes of my existence. And only 1 hour this semester, but I got a group of 4 young ladies that just love to anytime we're done or cleanup's done, and then it's TikTok.
TikTok.
Stop recording TikToks in my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's very obviously in our room. You can very much tell it's mine. I don't need someone going, why are these TikToks filmed in your classroom hour?
But then the important thing is, why do they feel they have to?
Well, and that's
Would
a
that
whole
be a
deeper
great debate?
conversation. It would be, except it's freshman
Great
at
unit.
foundations, and I
Great
don't know
unit.
if I'm quite there with their artistic abilities. But that is what the 2D and the advanced classes start to do with their work, is have the kids question a little bit more.
Love it.
What aspect of Rufus King do you think is its strongest attribute for any interested listeners thinking of teaching or attending as a student or sending their kids to Rufus King?
I will say this. We offer not only a variety of academic components, right? We build you up as a human being, but we also build you up, you know, when it comes to sports, when it comes to activities. We offer so many. Right now we have, I counted the other day, over 65.
Yeah, I think I've said it here before.
65.
The most in
Yes.
MPS.
Different clubs, different ways you can do sports, different ways. You know, Ms. Badillo, I would like to do GSA. Absolutely, that's established.
I was
What does
just
that
having
look
a
like?
conversation about rock climbing with Mr. Nichols.
Rock climbing, yep. You know, we're talking about manga. I always say that wrong. Manga, when we're talking about Latinos Unidos, Black Student Union, Asian, I mean, you name it, we have it. And if we don't, let's talk about what you can start on your own.
Yeah.
So teaching students how to start a club, who do you find, going through the process, even that process in itself is what I love about
How do
what
you
we
talk
do.
to adults and
Yes.
ask for support
Support,
or
yep.
not sponsorship, but leadership from the teacher to help that club get off
Correct.
the ground? Yeah.
We had our Zen Den, which we talked about before, where our previous students that graduated from us, alumni, really said, you know, I really think that after COVID, we have had more mental health issues. We would like to help. And just building that component for our students with school counselors. They've done an amazing job in the district and in our school. You know, Ms. Michael leading the way with how have we helped them before the Zen Den.
Yeah.
You know, giving them time to talk, to listen to, and to really address what they're needing in their anxiety. And then giving them the skills to move forward. So it's the school, but it's also the individuals in the school and the students and the parents and the community. It's a whole family.
And I think that that's one large positive that has come out of the pandemic is that mental health has been thrust upon the whole world.
Yes.
And the whole world, no matter how put together they might have thought they were, all tragically went through something with everyone else and then realized, you know what? Having someone to talk to, that connectivity, that ability to just bounce ideas off or to express and to be listened and heard, to be seen,
Yep.
I think helps. And I think it's phenomenal that our students, former students, decided that that's a gift that they wanted to give back and something that they thought could be improved upon. And the amount of acceptance that's been happening in the world with mental health
Yes.
and people really reflecting on what bothers them during the day or what is good in their life and really trying to navigate through to find more of the good and to navigate through the hard times
Yes.
with strategies and supports.
Yeah, and I can say this. We were just talking about this, a group of us, the other day. And I'm not a graduate of King. But I feel like I've been here my whole life. I mean, I kind of grew up here.
Yeah, well,
But-
the majority of
right,
your teaching career, as
right,
we
right.
posted your first year teaching
Yes.
picture a couple months back.
But I will say this. King has what they say in French, je ne sais quoi, right? We just have this magic, you feel it when you walk in the building, you see it, you hear it in our kids, you see it in our staff. I don't know how to describe it because it's not something tangible, but when you're here, you're a general forever. And so that's how I feel. And when I came back home, that's really, I've missed it. I didn't realize how much I talked about king until somebody finally said, yeah, we get it. You were a king, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so let's talk about it. I don't know. Oops, sorry. But it's just that feeling. It's something that I can't describe, but I'm glad I'm a part of.
Yeah, I think I referenced it with Josh Joseph as drinking the Kool-Aid. It's something that is here, and until you know it's here and you grab that cup and you take a sip, all of a sudden it all becomes clear.
Clear, yes.
And it's here, and it's a feeling, it's an atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get us wrong, listeners, there's stresses as part of the job.
Oh, yeah.
We're no better or worse than any other school, especially in America, going through what we've all gone through over the last 5 years, and what we're all trying to pick up the pieces and rebuild. But the camaraderie and the energy that has been vibing through these halls that kept the majority of us, I don't want to say alive, because that's a rough comparison to the pandemic, but kept us motivated to push through. And that doesn't mean that staff that aren't here anymore are not in the teaching profession anymore after the pandemic don't still feel that or have that. They did. There was a thing here at King that just pushed us all through, even through Google Meets meetings and Zoom meetings and any way that we could connect.
And we couldn't be in front of each other and all of that. You can ask any student. They're like, oh gosh, we're so glad to be back.
Yeah.
So glad.
It's a breath of fresh air. I'm still waiting for more meetings to start being in person.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Especially because my district meetings, and I have 2, tomorrow night and Thursday night, that are in person. And,
excellent.
Cool. It's all starting to come back. As the new principal of Rufus King High School, do you have a vision in mind as to where you want to take King moving forward? And if so, what helped you shape that vision? So, two-parter.
So I would say this. I've always, like I said before, I've always loved IB, of course. And then we have the MYP and the DP. As we know, MYP is 9th and 10th, DP is 11th and 12th. Having 2 children that went through King, I can tell you they're not the same learners. They didn't learn the same, they didn't write the same, they didn't feel equally confident when it came to academics. And so having that experience myself with my own children, I would say my vision is to continue to strengthen what we have, but then have a component for our students to re-engage in learning. And what I mean by that is this. I would say, and argue, if somebody were to say anything different, not that I'm not argumentative, but I would support it with this. True or false? Do we all learn the same?
False. We do not.
Right? So that's why I think the CP program is so important, that career pathway.
Yeah, so people that are listening, the IB offers a graduation path next to the diploma program called the certificate program. We here in America call it a career path program or a capstone project. There's a lot of different ways in education right now, but the International Baccalaureate calls it the certificate program because it is a pipeline for students to get that job training and that life experience prior to graduation in the event that they're not going to go on to maybe a 4-year college or a master's degree or doctorate, but they want to go right into the workforce and have that. It is a career paths program through the International Baccalaureate, keeping the learner profile, keeping our...
Everything's basically the same except for how they do it.
Yep.
And that's the piece that I think that people see that as, and I said, hold on. I wasn't going to go to college.
Yeah,
my mother threw me in.
My parents pushed me.
Yeah, my mother threw me in the car and said, yes, you are. And she's a Latina mother, so you listen. So I would say that is quite beneficial, we see it especially now, post-pandemic, because skills have changed, as we were talking about before. Soft skills are a big to-do in business. It's not just, you have a degree, but can you communicate?
Well, also in the medical field, in customer service, any essential workers that worked through the pandemic, those soft skills and their tech skills all came into play.
And it's mostly learned on the job.
Yeah.
Like I would say, I won't say which child, because then I point them out, but one of my children has amazing soft skills, loves what he or she does, and those soft skills are earning him in the 20s. Okay, all I have to say is he'll make more. He or she will make.
Said him.
Fine. Him. He will make more money than me by the time he's 30.
Yeah.
Time he's 30.
Yeah.
Because he has that capability. Now, King gave him that component, but the CP program would have built even more.
Yeah.
And then made him
And
feel
faster.
exactly, and
You
made
would
him
have
feel
had that confidence when you got out the door, and you would have been one
Correct.
step up from your peers that would have
Yes.
been your same age but didn't have those opportunities.
Correct. And that those internships that it creates and
Yep.
going out into the real world to really practice those skills and saying, you know what? I felt after 4 years, what am I going to do? Like, is this what I want to do?
No.
And thank God I had that notion junior year. But how many people right now, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years in college, still don't, they don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And
how
that's
do you even
millions of
achieve it?
dollars.
Yeah.
So this is going to help hone in a little bit more, give them the opportunities that they need and want, build their skills together, and then give them better opportunities in our society.
No, I think it's
That's
phenomenal.
exciting for
There's
me.
a lot of us that have been starting classes in those avenues to try to help our students get jobs or to have those skills before they even leave, to give them one up in whatever their next venture is, be it
Correct.
college or otherwise. And now if we can start to formally organize that moving forward, as other schools in the area have. There's a very prominent school out in Waukesha County that is IB and
Yes.
does have the CP program and really, pushes their community partnership, which I know MPS has a whole division that connects MPS students and schools with our area partners
Correct.
in the city and in the region. And I think that King finally starting to move into that realm and kind of put both feet in. I think it's going to be an awesome new prospect for our school.
And I'll tell you, our alumni are fantastic. And I also have previous students who have reached out, thank God to them, have reached out and said, anything you need, I'm in. And there's lawyers, doctors, teachers,
Yep.
medical professionals. I mean, you name it, we've got it. You know, so I think that once we do that, they're ready and willing to then take on our students and internships.
Just at lunch, you're
Yes.
talking about there's 3 current politicians in
Yes,
the state
there
capital
are.
that are King grads.
Yes, they are.
That Mr. Zaber and I were talking about going up to the governor's budget release a couple
Yes.
years ago, and the King drumline performed, and we were in the veranda at the Capitol, and all of a
Nice.
sudden all 3 politicians and their staff came out and started dancing along and singing the King alma mater. It was
Of
just
course
a
they did.
phenomenal experience.
Yep. And so, I mean, when we look at that, taking even that nugget and saying, look, our kids are great, and our previous, students are willing to keep that momentum
Yeah.
for our students now.
It's awesome. So you already kind of gave us a closing quote that you gave us in the beginning, so we can leave it at that unless you have a different thought or book recommendation that you'd like to finish with, or just, rehash the quote again. Your call.
I would say, with the one that I said before, shape a mind, change a future, be a teacher, that also goes with leadership. Let us not forget that no matter what we do in life, leadership is important. And it always should be an open-minded way to build people instead of knocking them down. We all have a strength. We just have to find it.
Yeah, and we have to
That's
find each other's strengths
Yes.
instead of each other's weaknesses.
Agreed.
Well, thank you so very much
Thank
for
you.
sitting down with me today. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Buenas tardes.
Hello, Rufus King Nation builders. I wanted to thank you for taking the time today to listen to our 11th King's Cast podcast, introducing our community to the staff working daily in the halls of Rufus King High School to support our student generals. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation about the future of Rufus King High School with new principal Doreen Badillo. After today's conversation, I am reminded of the community built within the halls of Rufus King High School and the power of collaboration and teamwork. That said, please join us again next month as we sit down with another Rufus King staff member to discuss how they bring the International Baccalaureate to life in their classrooms.